and good luck. Keith Anthony? No, I just saying thank you. Keith Anthony, are you here? And then we'll hear from Thomas Wendell.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Council members. My name is Keith Anthony. I'm the chairman of Sacktown Hall, vice president and chairman of Sacktown Hall, which is affiliated and represents several organizations, CrimeWatch.com, PatriotWatch.com, and Sacramento County Taxpayers Association. At times in the past year, this council and city management has asked us to come before us, meaning the community, to come before the council in support of actions regarding the safety of our community. We have answered that call each time, and most notably, most recently, our presentation regarding the parade ordinance. Much to our disappointment, we have seen this council reverse its position on the very issues we came to support. Some of our leaders have come here tonight to ask this council some questions, and that would be probably, I think, the next 4 people after me. Mayor Fargo, I do understand the Brown Act and that the restrictions on this committee for discussing items not on the agenda, but this council can agendize items based upon community concern. Some inquiries routinely get passed on to the city manager with a promise of follow-up, and our council representatives may have asked for those answers at a future time. Ironically, these questions seem to fall through the cracks, and we're forced to return and ask the very same questions as though they were never asked in the first place. Tonight you'll hear from a few of our colleagues and the issues our members are concerned about. We have pledged to be a polite reminder with these issues in a need for public hearing or public response on the record. We are willing to meet with the city staff with the understanding that all information exchanges will be shared with our community members in a public forum. I have a letter that I'd like to give to the clerk of a member, thank you, of a Sacramento City resident and also owner of a business in the actually on 18th and on 19th Street, from Laura McCauley. In her letter, this is pressing this council and the police chief to support an effort that had proven successes, multiple felony arrests and convictions, and court order restitution for victims from 1997-1998. The city withdrew its support thereafter for that effort, and now we are seeing the results, specifically on vandalism and graffiti. The letter is from Laura McCauley, who's an architect, and the letter states as follows: vandalism, graffiti is a perceived victimless crime. Come on, how hard is it to take off a little spray paint? Okay, some colors are harder to remove than others, but it's not a big deal. But as you know, it is a huge deal. It is the essence of crime. It is the perception that the area is not relevant to the lowest common denominator of people.
Mr. McCauley, I need you. You're past your 3 minutes, and
yes.
Mr. Anthony, I apologize.
Yes, this letter's from Laura McCauley.
Right, but we can read it since you're handing it in, so
okay,
I don't need you to read it for the record.
For the record, that's fine. I have submitted that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thomas Wendell.
Hello, my name's Tom Wendell. I'm a Midtown resident. I've lived here for a few years. I've met some of you. I came here to follow up on a letter that I sent to most of you fairly recently regarding a confrontation that I had with a vagrant in my neighborhood. I've had a particularly unfortunate circumstance involving being next to a commercial property where vagrants are commonly found, where I have tired of confronting the police officers or asking them to intervene on a regular basis, have taken it upon myself to visit that area, to try to patrol it, to try to be a good citizen, and this has recently resulted in a direct confrontation with one of those people. I have gotten fairly good responses so far from a letter that was sent on the 30th. In fact, Mr. Trethewey, Ms. Sheedy, Mr. Cohn have all replied. I've heard from Mr. Fernandez. I've heard from several members of the police office and appreciate those responses. I follow Keith here because I would like to couple some of these issues in Midtown, and I know that you all are very interested in seeing improvements in Midtown in this regard. I think you would like to see families there. I think you would like to see safety in that area. I think you'd like to see improvement in property values and tax bases. And I am looking forward to any opportunities to engage any members of the city council, any members of city government in any way that I might in the future to try to follow up on these issues and to try to be an active, involved, and concerned citizen. These are not aesthetic issues. They're safety issues. They represent real threats. If what happened to me had happened to my wife out walking with my 5-year-old son around the corner from my home, it could have been an absolutely horrifying result. I thank you for your attention to this issue. Those of you who have replied, my plan is to follow up on the issue, to periodically return here, and to try to keep this issue alive. I think through the cooperation with citizens and the engagement of citizens in this issue, we can deal with what is perceived by many to be an intractable problem. It's not intractable. The current situation is really not acceptable. I know that most of you believe that that's the case, and look forward to any opportunities or comments that any of you may have in that regard. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Mr. Wendell, before you step down, Mr. Cohn would like to comment.
Mayor, I do recall, and thank you, Mr. Wendell, for your comments in the preceding, and not sure if the other comments are going to relate to the same area, but you know, Mr. Janae and Crime Watch have been very active in that area, MBA, the neighborhood associations. This is not a problem that's just going to go away. It's a problem that we have to be ever vigilant about, and I think there's a concern, perhaps well-founded, that there may be some backsliding. Actually, the neighborhood overall is still much stronger than it was 10 years ago and is getting much, much better, but obviously there is a lot of concerns, a lot of work yet to be done, and I encourage you to work not only with the police department, the folks that we got in touch with you, and Max Fernandez from code enforcement, also the neighborhood associations. There's a monthly meeting for all of the Central City. I know Dave Janae is often there, that meets the third Monday of every month, and there's also a code action team meeting once a month, and a number of neighborhood associations, and I think your area perhaps needs to form its own, and I think the Midtown businesses may even want to think about, beyond just a volunteer association, actual business improvement district or property and business improvement district, which is something that's been discussed to help augment, especially on the graffiti. That not so much on some of the other issues, but the graffiti. But I'd be happy to sit down with you and your neighbors directly. You don't have. I'm pleased to have you come to council, but you really don't need to do that if you don't want to. I'm pleased to meet with you folks anytime and bring our police and code enforcement and whatever other resources we need.
Very good.
Okay. Thank you
very much.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Mr. Wendell. Richard Meller, and he will be followed by Jocelyn Napier.
Mayor, members of City Council, my name is Richard Meller. Much like the former speaker, I'd like to address the issues of safety in the community. I've lived in Midtown now for about a year, around 18th and H Street. I'm soon to be a father. I have a pregnant fiance.
Congratulations.
I've lived in some big cities, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and I'm used to the different crime scenarios that go on. Now, from what I've heard and what I've seen, as expressed in the last conversation and points, from what I've heard from people that live here, things are getting worse and not better in the last 10 years. Considerably worse from other people that live in my community. Now, just this morning, between 7:30 and 8 o'clock this morning at Bonfair Market, which is at 19th and H, I believe. I went in there to purchase paper this morning, where a vendor was approached, delivering bread to the market, whatnot, was approached by some homeless folks, with the baskets and whatnot, which harassed her into a state of, I need to call the police, which a police officer pulled into the parking lot at the same time. I don't know if it was called for already, whatnot, but the response time was right there, so I'm not sure exactly. Now, what I witnessed was the homeless person harassing a vendor delivering something to a market. Now, the police officer got out of the car, walked up to the vendor and said, don't egg these people on, just keep your mouth shut, and turned from that person and left to go talk to the homeless person that's, dealing with, the cans and all that kind of stuff. And now they go talk about 5-10 minutes. I kept my eye on the situation. They're talking for about 5-10 minutes and lets them go. In the meantime, the vendor was like, I want to press charges. I was harassed here. I was, verbally abused and whatnot by this person. So my point is, first of all, we live a few minutes from this market. We go there every day. I can't let her go after dark to the market to go get something to eat because these people congregate at that spot. The police are there all the time. Like I said, the response time I think is way too quick in this situation where it wasn't called. I think he pulled into the spot, pulled into the market. Now,
Mr. Miller, I need you to bring it to a conclusion.
Right,
We have
I
a
understand.
full agenda after the citizens,
I
so
understand.
you're out of time.
okay.
I appreciate your coming down this evening. Thank you. And were you Jocelyn? Oh, okay. Then Jocelyn, you're next. Hi.
I just want to kind of reinforce what my person that lives in my complex said. I lived in Midtown for about 8 years. It's getting worse. It is not getting better. And I seen my problem I have is that the little store. I love the people that run the store. I really do. But when they started selling liquor from fifths to pints and half pints, we saw a large influx of transients coming in. And because they hang out there. I mean, I go up, I run out of cat food at 6 in the morning. I got to be at work at 7. I work for the state library. I have 60-something cents. Got any spare change? At 6 in the morning. I said, no, I got to buy my cat some food. I don't even think I should have to explain it to them, But it's scary. I've gotten to the point where I will not leave to go to that store after dark, And I won't, and like I said, if I have to go get cat food in the morning when it's dark, I will, but things happen in broad daylight. I get harassed. I'm an African-American woman. There's a lot of African-American men that are in that situation that are homeless. I get yelled at. I get called the B word. I get called everything. If I don't want to talk to them, if I don't want to give them money, I'm afraid for my own safety. And I think if I use mace, I'll probably end up in jail. And that's not right. So I was just asking, we've met with Councilman Cohn before and expressed the concerns, but it just seems like things just aren't getting addressed, or they're just getting worse and worse and worse, and it's turning into like a slum almost, and it's Midtown. So I don't know. I don't have any suggestions. I'm just coming to you guys with this problem. Hopefully something can be done.
Can I ask you just a follow-up question on it?
Sure.
Is it, since most of the people seem to be from the same general neighborhood,
Yeah.
is it the same apartment complex?
Some
and is it
are.
the same store, the same corner that we're having a problem
It's the
with?
same store.
Okay.
It's that
And you're
same-
familiar with this and have met with
Yeah.
the chief on it? Okay.
Yeah, it's that store. It's just things have gotten worse
Okay.
since they started selling those half pints and
Yeah.
pints.
Okay.
Anybody can drum up $1.45 or $2 to get,
Mm.
and then they just hang out, and it's bad, and they scare me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you. Mr. Trethewey, did you want to?
Mayor, I just wanted to share that through some work we're doing on Alkali Flat, we have a new neighborhood association being formed with Alkali Flat and Mansion Flats, is where they're talking about.
Good.
I think it's going to be a very active group. We have leadership from both areas. It's just in its starting stages. I think it was either last week or this week is their first joint meeting to talk about who they want to be, what kind of issues they want to address. So I can forward these people's names to the leadership group, and they can be invited to the.
It probably it sounds like they're in a different neighborhood.
in-
However, they're on the other side of
I thought it was
16th.
18th and
No,
8th.
this is not Mansion Flats. This is
Yeah, this
east
is-
of 16th. This is either considered
Oh, okay.
part of Boulevard Park, or which there is a neighborhood association
Right.
that they
Very
can
There is a
join
big one there.
right now, although if they want to form their own, they can do that as well. The Boulevard Park Neighborhood Association does go there. Also, Washington School Neighborhood Association overlaps. So there are neighborhood associations that exist. There's also the NAG that I mentioned.
I think the
There are
neighborhood would be a
resources
great place
that can
to
be used here, and I appreciate that it's very frustrating for folks to deal with these problems, and we need to work together to try to solve them. But there are resources available.
And I would just add that I do believe the city attorney's office is looking into problem grocery stores that have high incidence of calls and such, to see if we can pass some type of action or ordinance to help make the neighborhood safer.
One other suggestion, I know the neighborhood associations are well aware of this, but having been to small claims court against a local market that was selling liquor in conjunction with the Mansion Flats folks, that was an interesting day at small
Well,
claims court. That
Mayor, if I may, one
I
idea.
know you're working on this, Steve, so I don't want to jump in front of
Well, one idea I would like for our staff to look at, and it's not just because of cheaper liquor, or I'm sorry, the bond fare used to be cheaper liquor. I guess they're not as cheap as they used to be. Now it's bond fare. But one issue that I think would help, because the area they're talking about, one of the problems are transients in particular. And we've heard about graffiti, which is kind of a separate issue from the transients hanging out at the liquor store. This is not a problem unique to that store. There's a problem at a number of liquor stores throughout the city. They accept, I don't know about this particular one, but some of them will become payees for SSI and other types of welfare checks. And they will take the money and then keep a credit account and allow people to buy liquor on account, essentially. And I know a couple of our police officers that patrol in this area have looked into this issue and are very concerned about it. It may require some state legislative change, but there are a number of things we need to do, but that's one thing that comes to my mind recently that our police officers in the area have become concerned about. And that's one of the things I think would be helpful, is more regular communication between these folks and our police department, and our code enforcement, talk about different things that can be done. But that's one thing that I would like staff to take a look at and bring to Law and Ledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Ms. Hammond?
Actually, Ray pretty much touched on it. I had asked about utilizing our existing nuisance ordinance so that we don't have to keep writing things over and over again. Apparently, at the same time, Council Member Sheedy had raised questions about some of the problem spots in her district. And unbeknownst to me, because this would obviously be a Brown Act violation, Councilmember Trethewey had also had the same issue. And I know, because I've spoken to Councilmember Penal, she's got the same issue. So the police department is working with the city attorney, and I've just met with them. And so hopefully there will be something to go to Law and Ledge relatively quickly, and it has to do with the permitting for the ABC license, because Mr. Trethewey got an introduction for me to the ABC director here for the state of California, and they're kind of stymied as to what they can do. If there aren't conditions on the liquor license, then you can't add conditions unless you've got a ton of paperwork proving that these folks aren't good people. So we're going to have to be a little more creative about how we do this. But just for the Oak Park people in the back, just for them to know, that's not the only neighborhood where these problems occur. But we're going to address this as the mayor and the council as a group.
Thank you, Ms. Hammond. Lee Welter will be our next speaker, followed by Nate Solove.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Lee Welter. I live in Southland Park, and I work in the neighborhood of UC Davis Medical Center. I'd like to bring you some good news and some encouragement tonight.
Well, thank you.
And thank you in particular for making some of these non-agenda items very convenient for our citizens to bring before you. And that's very, very helpful, and I hope to make use of that in the future. Firstly, there's a little bit of bad news. A little over a year ago, I was a victim of a violent street crime in Sacramento. The good news is that our Sterling police officers apprehended the two young thugs who had beaten me, and they're now serving their time at the CYA. At the time that I spoke with those police officers, they agreed with me that video surveillance at the light rail station likely would have either prevented or abbreviated the attack that was made on me. I don't know whether that has progressed in the interim. However, I did notice a newspaper article in the Sacramento Bee later in this past summer that there's a proposal for a wireless network in the downtown area which would lend itself very readily to video monitoring of public spaces and improving our safety. That was brought to mind earlier this month when I read another article in the Sac Bee that says Chicago sees big drop in homicides in 2004. That article attributes that improvement to improved and more extensive video surveillance and more police officers on the streets. Along those lines, I also see evidence or have seen evidence in the recent week or two of cooperation between our criminal justice agencies, the local media, and concerned citizens as reflected in the prompt reports, images and background information on the two young criminals that escaped from the SAC Expo venue, as well as the Midtown child molester whose picture and background information was made readily available to help us protect ourselves and to help solve some of these crimes more promptly. So I thank you for that, for your role in that, and I encourage you to continue with that kind of effort.
Thank you, Mr. Welter.
Mayor, just ask a question of
Excuse
this
me,
gentleman.
Mr. Welter, before you sit down. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You.
I'm come on back up for just a moment.
Were you attacked in and around the light rail station? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. You want the 10-second version or the 1-minute version?
10-second.
They were waiting for a victim. I happened to be the only one on the station at the time. They jumped on me from behind. Okay. I was attacked very brutally, but their threat to kill me was not carried out.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are several of us on Regional Transit, and we do have cameras at several of our stations. So maybe this is a station we can check and see if we can
This was 3rd and 9th Street, right near the medical center.
Okay.
And they said it was planned, but it just wasn't there yet. But that was a year ago, so I don't know what.
So is there one there now, or do
I haven't gone back.
I think we'll ask someone else to check for you. You do not have to go back.
That's one we'll check out. We can check that out.
Yeah. Ms. Hammond?
Just that when I was on RT some years ago, it was my suggestion that we put cameras at the light rail stations and that we put cameras on every bus and that we put cameras on the light rail trains. That's not a cheap endeavor. So I would think that regional transit, and we passed it, I mean, we voted for it, so I know that that's been a priority of regional transit. I just have no idea how much longer it's going to take to do that.
We have cameras at some of the newer light rail stations, but I'm not sure about the older ones.
Mr. Cohn?
Yeah, Mayor, the plan is, and I believe we now have planned to do the cameras at all the stations. That has not been completed. Now, I'm not sure about the one at 39th yet, but there will be on all the stations. There's already cameras on the cars, the light rail cars, but not all the buses. No. And I might mention on the graffiti issue that was brought up that our police department is working with our anti-graffiti coordinator to put up cameras at select locations, and in fact, right near the place that was mentioned near 18th and J. And I think they're looking at some sites down 19th Street along the railroad tracks there where there's been some heavy graffiti and using that as a way to discourage it. And we got some grief from some civil rights activists, but I think we can do it in a way that's, yeah, and I think our city attorney has ruled that we can do it, but at least they're working with police department on that. Thank you.